All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Karn. I'm a volunteer for Elevate Rapid City, and previously a little bit with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm your moderator for today. So welcome. I'm excited to welcome you to the first Cracker Barrel of 2022. Good crowd. Must be the campground everybody wants to talk about. If it's not campgrounds, what else do we have to talk about? Oh, yeah. Okay. See, I don't know what to say if it wasn't for Ms. Hayes over there. She told me to make sure that I recognize Representative Dusty Johnson, who's in the crowd today. So welcome, Representative Johnson. His hand is a little sore from all the shaking hands at the rodeo last night. And again, Western Dakota Tech has generously given this facility to us for the morning, which is such a perfect venue for this event. So thank you to Western Dakota Tech. Also, we've coordinated a live stream and remote question submission open option for the Cracker Barrels this year. So if you're live streaming, find a link on the elevaterapidcity.com or Facebook page, and you can submit your questions via online. As a reminder to our legislators, because we are live streaming to a remote audience, please remember to speak into your microphone so that everybody can hear you. And to set our guidelines for today's question and answer format, we ask in-person attendees to submit their questions written on the form provided, and they're provided in the back. Has everybody found those forms? Is that right, Anna? In the back? Okay. And somebody will pick them up. We have some readers that can pick those up if you raise your hand. You can, if you need one, there's other volunteers standing around the room that have them. Can the volunteers please raise your hand if you are doing it? There you go. Thank you. All right. I also want to thank my cohorts for the day, Lynn Kendall, Dean Orand, who's the timer. Dean takes his timing very seriously, so warning to everybody. Brad Sodoff, and Brentlinger, Chuck Henry, Becky Knox, and Andy Greenman. So thank you, everybody, for your volunteering.
Just to give you a little bit of information, this may be the first time that some of you have come to Western Dakota Tech. There are a few friendly faces in the crowd. I'd like to recognize Mike Ressler and Kurt Pokart, who are Board of Trustees members for Western Dakota Tech, who are here today. And then also, we have two oncoming board members who are in the room, and that would be Lynn Kendall, who is up on the stage, who will be joining the Board of Trustees for WDT, and Linda Raby, who just walked in the door just in time to be introduced. So, Western Dakota Tech is the only technical college in South Dakota that has a separate board to govern it locally. We have a state board and we've got local governance, and the folks who are on our local Western Dakota Tech board are people that I lean on for advice and wisdom and all of the calmness that it takes in order to guide a college through pandemics and the different changes that we need to make. Just a little bit about Western Dakota Tech. We are a 2-year technical college. We are the best technical college in western South Dakota. We're also the only one, but we are the best. We were just recently named to Aspen's prestigious top 150 2-year colleges. We also found out last week that we got the call to do the interview, so we're now in the top 45 best colleges, 2-year colleges in the country. So we have, and the reason that happens is the fact that the programs we offer at Western Dakota Tech have incredible outcomes for our students. They get jobs. We have about a 98 or 99% placement rate when our students graduate. One of the big trends lately is that when students enroll in our programs, we have employers that immediately want to put them to work part-time while they are still in our programs. So we've got students who are coming in with great scholarship internship opportunities through Build Dakota and private sponsors such as Caterpillar. We have employers that want to put our students to work part-time while they're going through their programs, and we have job placement. We work very hard to make sure that we're responsive to industry in the area, and we work hard to make sure that whatever programming we bring online leads to great outcomes for our students and for our communities. So welcome to Western Dakota Tech. Once again, thank you to our legislators for coming out today, and I am really excited about the things that are happening in Pierre right now. So I'll let you guys get it kicked off. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, President Bowman. If there's any former elected officials in the audience today, please stand so we can recognize you and thank you for your service. Thank you. Now, this isn't on the script, but there's somebody in the crowd I do want to recognize, a friend of mine, Much Usera, who recently retired after 372 years at Black Hills Energy. Thank you, Much, for your service. And of course, thank you to the audience who support this event through your attendance and participation each year. Now, to introduce our legislative guests before you, on behalf of the Rapid City area community and Elevate, I want to recognize them for their hard work, for the great state of South Dakota, and for sharing a part of their Saturday with us today. So I'm going to look down the line. I see Senator Julie Fry Mueller, Senator Jessica Castleberry. Who's next? Representative, is that Chris Johnson? Okay, thank you. Representative Becky Drury, Representative Tim Goodwin. Hey, there he is. Senator Helene Duhamel, Representative Trish Ladner. Oh, excuse me, Representative Mike Derby. Sorry, Senator. Sorry, it's changed. I can't read. It says Representative. Yeah. What are you? Senator Mike Dietrich. I thought I said that. And then I've known Mike a long time, and I just, sorry, Mr. Derby. Representative, oh man, Becky Drury, Trish Ladner, excuse me. Man, I'm off now. Can we start all over again? And Senator Dave Johnson. So thank you everybody for coming today. So after that rocky start, we have 4 representatives that will speak today. Senator Dave Johnson, Representative Becky Drury, Representative Trish Ladner, and Representative Tim Goodwin. And to kick us off, we'll have Senator Dave Johnson.
Speak into the microphone, it says. So, the year 2022 is an election year. Every single person on this panel and the candidates that are in the audience are required to obtain signatures from at least 50 registered Republicans in the case of Republicans, or Democrats in the case of Democrats. Last weekend I was out, true story, last weekend I was out gathering signatures. I knocked on a door, and an elderly gentleman answered, wasn't smiling, and I gave him my spiel. I said, "Sir, I'm David Johnson. I'm the incumbent senator in District 33. I'm wondering if you would mind signing my petition so that my name can be on the ballot coming up in June for the June primary." And his response, he said, "Do you know why the politician crossed the road?" I knew that something was coming. I mean, we've all heard that. I said, "Sir, I don't know why the politician crossed the road." And he said, "Well, because during the campaign, he promised that he wouldn't." True story. I didn't know how to take it, so I started backing away, and he said, "You want me to sign the damn petition or not?" So he signed the petition, and he went and asked his wife if she would sign it, and she did as well. So I had spent 4 years in the legislature, in the House, on policy committees. And last year was my first year as an appropriator. Policy committees are just that. They discuss bills and issues on policy, where the Appropriations Committee does one thing and one thing only. They discuss revenue and they discuss expenses for the state of South Dakota. For 3 weeks now, the Appropriations Committee, actually 4 weeks, we've been hearing from departments. Every single department comes before us that involving information on departmental budgets, their mission statements, organizational structure, their responsibilities, previous year's successes and failures, strengths and weaknesses, and their workforce updates. So far, the Appropriations Committee has spent in excess of 200 hours listening to budgetary hearings and testimony. We've heard from the Governor's Office, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, the Lieutenant Governor's Office, the State Treasurer's Office, the State Auditor's Office, Secretary of State's Office, Attorney General's Office. This is just so far. Department of Ag and Natural Resources, Department of Game, Fish, and Parks, Department of Health, Department of Labor and Regulation, Department of Tribal Relations, Department of the Military, Department of Public Safety, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Revenue, Department of Schools and Public Lands, Department of Social Services, Department of Tourism, Department of Transportation, Department of Education, the Department of Human Resources, the Department of Corrections, the Bureau of Finance and Management, the Bureau of Information and Telecommunications, the Bureau of Administration, the Board of Regents, the Board of Technical Education, the South Dakota Investment Council, the South Dakota Retirement System, the Unified Judicial System, the South Dakota State Legislature, and of course, the Public Utilities Commission. So far. The Governor's recommended budget for fiscal year 23 is $5.71 billion, which is up from last year's budget of $5.11 billion. The state of South Dakota is projected for fiscal year 2023 at state employees at 13,984. That's down from last year's 14,025. With South Dakota's population at 886,667 according to the 2020 census, that means that 1.6% of South Dakota's citizens are state employees. That's a wrap-up of the Appropriations Committee so far. Now, on to a different subject. A late, great South Dakotan and a true statesman and civic leader passed away as a young man of 53 years just late last year. I think anybody in this room doesn't know about Mr. David Lest. Most of us knew him. He was a great statesman, and he was a social gem, and he was a hell of a man and a friend. So, give me a minute. Okay. In one of my darker days as a legislator, Dave gave me some advice. He said, Dave, keep your elected position as a state legislator in perspective. I didn't know what the hell he meant. He said, keep it all of this, keep it in perspective. Do your best, retain a sense of humility and humor. He reminded me that literally thousands of ego-driven politicians have passed through state legislature doors. But the Capitol building, he said, has not moved one single inch from when it was erected over 100 years ago. Keep it in perspective, he said. So in that vein, I'd like to tell a little political joke. Here it goes. A skunk, a jackal, and a politician walk into a bar, and then he orders a drink. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. We'll just kind of go down the line here. Representative Trish Ladner, you ready to go?
I think I'm always ready. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Thank you for Western Dakota Tech and Elevate hosting this. We appreciate it. I currently serve on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, Commerce and Energy Committee, and I was elected to the Executive Board by my peers, which is quite an honor in your first term, one that I take very seriously as well. It's been a year of adventure, a year of extreme learning, and as I begin my second year, that remains a constant. So I'm looking forward to this legislative year and hopefully serving District 30 again in 23-24. We've had a lot of bills come across our committees, especially Ag and Natural Resources and Commerce and Energy as well. But the hot buttons have been the gun range that is in North Rapid and towards Meade County, or in Meade County basically, and Custer State Park proposal. I have a bill coming forward. It's HB 1039. I'm the prime sponsor in the House, and Senator Castleberry is prime sponsor in the Senate. And it's an ag land tax fairness bill. It says if your grassland has been grassland for 20 years or more and is at an elevation of greater than 1,950 feet above sea level, or is natural native grassland, it shall remain grassland regardless of reclassification of the land. So that means it safeguards our ranchers that if in the future, once again, Department of Revenue decides that your grassland is cropland, it shall remain cropland. Right now, they have tabled a new soil reassessment that would have raised our ranchers' tax revenue bills about, the lowest I've heard is 60% up to 310% increase in taxes, because artificial intelligence deemed that their land is now cropland in certain areas. And there's ribbons and pockets. Some are at the top of butte, some are in the bottom of creek washes. And you can't crop them. You can't get water source to them. You can't get equipment to them. So I don't believe that's fair. And I think, well, I know that ag is our largest industry. We need to protect it. We need to safeguard our ranchers. Or we can choose to become strip malls and wall-to-wall subdivisions. And you travel in Colorado, you travel in New Jersey, California, and you drive 15 miles, and you realize you've gone through 4 towns and you didn't even know it. It's all the same. There's a supermarket on every corner, there's a Home Depot, there's a Menards, whatever you want to say, but they just repeat. I don't want that for South Dakota, and that's why I ran for office. I ran to keep it from becoming California and New Jersey. And we need to protect our natural resources. We need to protect our ranchers. We were at the stock convention yesterday, and we stayed overnight. And one of the ranchers this morning down in the lobby area as we were leaving, he said, "I support your bill." And I said, "Well, thank you." And he said, "I crop my land. It's grassland, but I crop it. I have water source and I can crop it. And even though I can crop it, I still stand behind you, because we're a community of ranchers. We're a community that helps each other and stands with each other." And that was really encouraging. And I think at that moment, we kind of needed that encouragement. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. It passed Ag and Natural Resources 10-3 out of committee, went to the House, and they asked for a fiscal impact report or note, which is responsible. I had requested it for 4 weeks before. So we're looking for that to be issued Monday or Tuesday, and then it'll go to the House for a vote. And when it passes the House, it'll go to the Senate committee and then Senate floor. When it passes those 2 processes, it would go to the governor for signature. So I would ask for your support. I'd ask for you to email, call your legislators, ask for their support on this bill. I think it's a crucial time to decide if we want to safeguard the South Dakota way of life. And I do. I've worked hard at it, and I think we all have worked hard, and we count precious what we have here in South Dakota, and it's something once you lose, you cannot get back. I just want to emphasize that. Once you lose it, you cannot get it back. And when we build a community that is desirable, that is beautiful, people are going to want to come. Change will happen. But we need to stop it where we can. Not if we can, but where we can and when we can. And that is sometimes a challenging thing to do. So thank you for your time. Thank you for coming this morning. And I look forward to serving you in 23-24. Thank you.
Thank you. On to, I think next in line is Representative Tim Goodwin.
I got with me my son here. He doesn't want me, he doesn't know I'm going to do this, but my son has the same name I do. Unlucky him. And he catches the brunt of the phone calls. I get the emails, and he gets the phone calls. So, Tim, stand up so they know who they're talking to. There, thank you. He's an Iraqi war veteran, too, by the way. I bet nobody knows what I'm going to talk about today. Anybody have any idea? Guess? Custer State Park. Holy smokes. Before I get to that, I better introduce myself, though I could get in trouble if I don't. I'm Representative Tim Goodwin from District 30, which is Fall River, Custer, in the rural part of Pennington County. I serve with Representative Trish Loudner and Senator Julie Freimiller. I also serve on Military and Veterans Affairs, State Affairs, Ag and Natural Resources, and I serve in leadership as a Majority Whip, and I've been in that position 4 years, been in the House 6 years. This is my 6th year. Back to my subject, I wanted, by the way, one last commercial. If you read the Rapid City Journal today, I have some fan mail in on the letters to the editor, so you might want to read that. If you go back to where we started off with this in the governor's budget she gave like on December 12th, I might not have the day right, but it's pretty close. She goes through all the proposed things on her budget, and one of them was a campground in Custer State Park. I think everybody's heard of it by now. Haven't you been in a cave? And it was 175 sites down by the wildlife loop. And actually, it was just put out there. It had never made it to committee yet. Hasn't been in front of committee today yet. And, of course, everybody had a big uproar and our emails blew up. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's a chance for the citizens of this state, if they see something they don't like, they could reach out to their senators and representatives and say, hey, let's put the brakes on this. Let's look at this again. And our governor isn't opposed to that. Once she saw what was happening too, I've talked to her in person 3 times about it. And so we decided that plan probably isn't a good plan. And there was a lot of really good reasons. I mean, it wasn't like we just backed down. I mean, if you have, like in my case, I can't remember how many. If you notice, my computer isn't up here today because I think it's still smoking, so I don't even turn it on anymore. But so we decided that we're not even going to take that plan to committee. Didn't even come, it's never had a hearing, never went before committee, and we're just going to scratch it and come up with a new plan. So today I have the Secretary of Game Fish and Parks, Kevin Roblin. Can you stand up, Kevin? And he's the actual secretary, and then he has a couple of assistants. Scott Simpson, he's the Park and Rec guy. Is that right, Park and Rec? Did I say that right? Okay, and then John Canta, he runs the wildlife division at our campus here in Rapid City. So they have in the back, and I think you came in, they had handouts you could look at, and there's a proposed new site. You can look at it. What I'd ask you to do is look at it, read it, think about it over the weekend. Monday or Tuesday, give us a call. Probably Monday, I don't know. I think it's coming to committee on Tuesday, but it'll probably be delayed. So, it's best if you send us emails because we can only take so many phone calls. But Tim takes them all anyway, so I guess if you want to call me, that's all right. But if you could do that, digest this, and we want your input. If you think this is a better plan, I just want to hit a couple of things on it. In 1970, there was 465 campsites in Custer State Park. With the new plan of 66, we went from 175 to 66, there would be 455. So there's 10 less campsites than 1970, 10 less. In the private sector, there's about 14,000 camping sites. And so in the Black Hills, he looked at me funny. I didn't say the whole state, in the Black Hills. And that's less than 3%. Custer State Park's campsites would be less than 3% of all of them. We went to a 50-acre, it was a meadow that was over by Stock Egg Lake. We're going to propose, like I said, 66 campsites in there. And the price tag went down from roughly $10 million down to $4.8 million. So that's a proposal. You can read it. These guys are going to stay afterwards. If you want to talk to them, you surely may. That's what they came here for. And it is no done deal. If there's a public outcry like there was before, we're going to have to do something about it. But I think it's at least worth looking at. And the reason I didn't come out against the other plan is I thought it should come to committee. I think if you say you're against something before you even heard the hearing on it, you haven't heard the proponent testimony, you haven't heard the opponent, you haven't had a chance to ask any questions, and in this case, and Ag and Natural Resources, Trish and I sit next to each other, we're on that committee, so we'd like to have it come to us so we can actually, let's have the debate. That's what legislation's about. If you want me to comment on a particular bill right when it comes out before it comes to committee, I can just stay home. I'd love to stay home in my house in the Black Hills and just call it in. No, I don't want that one. Yeah, I want that one. I'll just stay home. You have to have the committee process. That's what it's about. So I guess my time's just about up. I was going to talk about a couple other things, but hopefully somebody talks about the range. Next person. No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Goodwin. And our final speaker, before we get to questions, will be Representative Becky Drury.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, Representative Goodwin, you didn't give me the heads up that I was talking about the range, or maybe I could have included it this morning, but I did not. My name is Becky Drury. I'm from Rapid City. I've lived here for 22 years. I married my high school sweetheart, but more importantly than that, I have 5 grandchildren in the area, and they are the heart and love of my life. And when we are at the legislature, that is what a lot of us really camp on, is what's best for those coming down the line. And there are a lot of things coming down the line. And even though Mr. Usera has only been there 372 years, we sometimes feel like we've been in Pierre 380 years by the time session is ended, because there are, especially at the end, we put in long days, lots of committee meetings, but we do it with our hearts. And I love Rapid City. I love serving this area. I just have a couple things I'm going to camp on today, and those are things that I've signed on to at the legislature and things that are important to me. The first thing is I've just brought a House concurrent resolution about stating that the star quilt be the official quilt of South Dakota. I know this isn't probably earth-shattering or breaking news, but I brought this for 3 reasons. First of all, I quilt, and I understand the technology that goes into that, the precision that goes into that, and the work that goes into each and every quilt. Second, it honors the artists in South Dakota. If you've ever seen any quilt, you have to appreciate the beauty that they bring forward. And each individual that quilts has their own individual color schemes they love. I like bright colors. If you look at my quilts, they're all very bright. But the third reason I brought this was because when I was at the LNI event down at Prairie Edge, before LNI started, we were talking about quilting, and then we started talking about star quilting, and I thought, I'm a quilter. What could I give back? The tradition of the star quilts runs deep in South Dakota. I have one that was my mother's. I am a very white person. I would never make a star quilt to give to Mr. Goodwin or my family, because that's not my tradition. But that tradition is highly honored in South Dakota. If you've ever been to the LNI or any events like that, high school athletes are honored with them. Babies are honored. Those that are passing away are honored. It's a tradition that I think we really need to just, if nothing else, draw attention to. Near and dear to my heart. There are a couple bills I've signed on to. One is 1099 and the other one is 1100. Those are really about child protection, especially during court proceedings. Some of them are updating language just because we don't do videotaping anymore, but some of them are about really guarding children. We have so much child abuse, trafficking, and very sad things that happen to our children that I think that when it comes to these very legal proceedings, we need to do the best we can to protect those children. Give them the opportunity to testify, tell their story, but without being stared at by those very people that either abuse them or have trafficked them. They deserve that. So I'm very excited to sign on to those two bills. The last one is Senate Bill 85. The prime sponsor on this is Senator Duhamel. It's bringing a water pipeline to western South Dakota. Now, if you pull up a map of eastern South Dakota, there are pipelines all over. And yes, we do have some in western South Dakota. But this would simply set aside some money to bring it further out to our area right here. As we know, the population's growing. Ellsworth Air Force Base is coming. Have you gone down a street and not seen another apartment building go up? We're tapping into our aquifers. And I'm hoping that Senator Duhamel will speak more to this issue, but she may not, because I didn't take up what Representative Goodwin asked me to talk about. So there you go. But thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Western Dakota Votech, and for everyone that came this morning.
We're going to start out with House Bill 1049. So if your question isn't answered, or if your name isn't brought up with the name, these are the predominantly questions that are being asked on this, and of course the other that I mentioned earlier. But we're going to start out with House Bill 1049, which supports the Black Hills Shooting Range. And the question is, how can we help get this approved? Anybody?
Yeah, the two bills, just so you know, 1048 is the campground and 1049 is the range. So if we just give numbers, I apologize, but I don't memorize all the bills anyway, so people, they always ask me about a bill and I go, I don't memorize the numbers, sorry, got to tell me the subject. Basically, that came before, in the House, it's a House bill because it's HB, so it's HB 1049, and it came before the Ag and Natural Resources. Geez, I get to put the mic up. I've never did that before. I've always been the shortest one. Well, it was you. And so it came before Ag and Natural Resources last week one day. It's kind of a blur in there. I can't tell you what day for sure. And had a great hearing, great participation for both the proponent and the opponent, and it didn't pass. So we're early enough in session right now where that you can actually, it went to the 41st day. That's right? Went to the 41st day? Trish, where you at? Right? Okay, it went to 41st day. That's kind of legislative speak, it's never going to come up again, but you can pull it off the 41st day, or else you could actually, it's early enough where we can still drop bills where you could actually do another bill on it. And so we're in that process now. A lot of things happened in that testimony. There was a lot of emotion in the room, and a lot of the legislators have since thought about it and would like to have another hearing on it. So we can do that legally, nothing illegal or under the table, and we can have another hearing for it. And so basically the bill is about 9 miles north of the Flying J, just go straight north, exit 61, and there's land there that's purchased to put in a world-class range where it could have actual international competition. Like Yankton has a similar deal with archery. We actually have international archery shoots. They could have it here for any type of different caliber rifles for those shoots, all the way 1,200 yards, I believe, is the distance on it. All the way down to small arms fire and pistol fire. And also set up where 4-H, FFA, and all those youth teams, the mentor program that Jim Sculp really pushes, that they could all shoot there as well. And so it's a really good deal. Now the dollars on it it's $10 million, but there's only 2.5 needed from the state. This rest is all through Game Fish and Parks, Pittman Robinson, am I saying that right? Where they get money off all the shells that are sold in the state and any type of guns and ammo. And so there's a big fund there that we can take it out of. And so basically to the taxpayers, it's $2.5 million. It's a great leverage for your tax dollar, and I think we should take a relook at it.
Senator Helene Duhamel, District 32 in Rapid City. We're a little bit taller in the Senate. No, I'm sorry. We have folks here from Game Fish and Parks. We haven't heard this in the Senate yet. A lot of people haven't heard it. So I thought, let's get the facts before we shoot down something that we haven't even learned about. Would you mind joining us, giving us some information?
Well, good morning, folks. Kevin Roblin here, Secretary with the Game Fish and Parks, and it's a pleasure to be in front of you this morning. Really want to talk about this project and the benefits of this project and really the goals of why Game Fish and Parks, thank you, and the goals of why Game Fish and Parks is considering this world-class range just north of Rapid City. The number one goal is to provide a safe place for families to shoot. And that's really the key component of this facility. It's going to be providing families a safe place to shoot, holding scholastic shooting sports events, holding 4-H events, teaching our youth about gun safety and hunt safe. Those are the true benefits of this type of facility. It is going to be a great place for folks in this community and surrounding communities, Somerset, Sturgis, Tilford, Rapid City, to go just 9 miles out of town and utilize that opportunity and have, again, a safe place to shoot. You know, this has been a process we've started back in January of 2021, working with those landowners. Our first meetings actually were in February with a few of them. We've been in constant communication. Our first county commission meeting that we attended was, it was in the 27th of July, was the first county commission meeting in Meade County that we attended. I've personally met with those landowners back in the beginning of January of 2022. I had a meeting in a calving barn with all of them. We've been in constant communication, working through mitigation efforts to talk about noise, talk about the amount of traffic that's coming to those roads, talking about the concerns of safety. That is, again, the number one priority of that range is to ensure that gun range is as safe as it can possibly be, and it will be. With berming and the types of things that we have today, with noise cancellation and those types of things. So there's been a ton of conversation about the road with the county, just about all the things, all of the concerns that everybody has heard here and has continued to be hearing, and we're going to work through those. We're going to be good neighbors. We're going to be absolutely good neighbors. Standing behind me is John Canta. He's been in constant conversation with folks in that area and constituents in that area for the greater part of 12 months now. So I'll be available in the back of the room to talk more about the gun range. I don't want to take up more time here today, but very excited about this project. The department's very excited to continue pursuing avenues to complete this project, and we're here to answer any questions that there might be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Senator Johnson.
So I look around the room here and I see a lot of veteran Rapid City residents. I've been a Rapid City community member for 57 years now. I see Commissioner Ross Connect, Commissioner Lloyd LaCroix, Mr. Skull. Probably, I don't know how long you guys have been residents of Rapid City, but where have we gone? Whenever we wanted to shoot or sight in a rifle, where have we gone? Beretta Road. Beretta Road. And we all know that's where the refrigerators, the televisions, the blown up plastic bottles, because that's where you go if you want to sight in your rifle. Now, it's been cleaned up a little bit in the last few years, but that's the only place where we've been able to go. And my secretary at my office is a member of the Rockerville Volunteer Fire Department. She told me that they've put out 3 fires up there in the last few months because of the range, the Beretta range. I'm saying that it's time for a shooting range. It's time for the community of South Dakota, Western South Dakota, get in line with this and bring safety back to the shooting sports. Thank you.
Did you have something, Senator Dietrich?
Yeah. Hi, Senator Dietrich from West Rapid City. We talk a lot about safety, and we talk about mentoring our youth to be safe hunters and to learn the rules and learn the respect for hunting and for the land and for the property owners and for their weapons. And that's all a critical part of this. Another critical part of this is the potential for economic development. With a range facility like this, the competitions, we could be a source, a location, a venue for national and international competitions related to this. So it's safety, it's respect, and it's economic development. And I think it's very important that we work through this and get it done.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next question, but I do realize I missed one other person in the crowd, and it's Dr. Jim Rankin, the president of the School of Mines. Dr. Rankin, thanks for being here today. All right, so we will move to a question from Mr. Paul Horsted, and it's in regards to HB 1048. And it's for Representative Lodner or Representative Goodwin regarding proposed Custer State Campground. In a January 26 email to constituents, Representative Lodner quoted Game Fish and Parks Secretary Roebling as telling legislators, in a meeting this week, there has been, quote, a loss of about 80 campsites over the years in the park. There are concerns about accuracy of Game Fish and Park facts on this matter. Why aren't they having public meetings on the issue, and what is the rush? So either Representative Goodwin or Lodner.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you for the question. As Representative Goodwin said, our emails have been blown up. And so I am under the firm belief that I represent you and Pierre, those of District 30. And having done so, I felt it was my responsibility to send out emails to people who had emailed me in opposition to the 175 or 176 spots, whatever it was, and ask what they felt about it being, the proposal being geared down to the smaller number at Stockade Lake. And in the beginning, right away, I got a lot of emails back saying, you know, I can live with that. You know, that's kind of palatable. It's better than it was. And then overnight, as people started reading the email, I asked for their input on, and that's what the email was intended to do. Give me your feedback. I'm representing you. I'm not representing myself. I'm not representing a cause. You sent me to Pierre to represent you. Well, I got 88 emails alone yesterday, just yesterday. And they're in overwhelming opposition to even the revised version. And so as the representative of District 30, I'm going to have to represent that in Pierre. But thank you for the question.
So I'll just hold on to it. Yeah, the numbers on that, I think that's what the question was. So right now there's 389 campsites. If they added the 66, I would take it up to 455. In 1970, there was 465. So it's 10 less than was in 1970. Right now there's 389, and like I said, it's less than 3% of all the camping sites in the Black Hills. So there's something else you want on that question?
I think you caught it. And it was also, they felt there's a rush on getting this done. Is why the rush was the final question.
I guess as far as the rush goes, it was in the governor's budget, you know, and we have already taken a pause and stepped back and looked at it. We got the 3 head guys from the Game Fish and Parks here today to talk to anybody. And so I don't see it as a real rush. I think if we put out the information, that I didn't know how many sites were in the park. I didn't know that there was less than in 1970 we had 465 and we got 389 now. So I mean we're not even bringing it up to what it used to be.
Okay, thank you. You know, this is a very hot topic, and there's a comment, and I'm just going to read it, and then we'll move on from this topic. Was there somebody else that wanted to speak quickly? Okay, thank you. Senator Frey-Mueller.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here today because this is a huge topic. We have received more handwritten personal emails on this one than any other one in the 6 years I've served. We've talked about different areas, different campsites, but do you guys know the cost of what it was per campsite when it was 176? It was $57,000 per campsite to get it there. $57,000. And the private owners when they were talking to us, said the most lavish one they have only costs $20,000. So why would the state be $37,000 more? The next one is, on our second proposal, it's still $4.8 million for 66 campgrounds. That makes it $72,727.27 per campsite, even more than the original. That is absolutely ludicrous. And to compete against the private sector with our own tax dollars, that's another huge thing that we have been hearing. State competing with them, and the emails, their own taxpayer money. And this isn't just campground owners. These are hotel owners. These are other people that, that have been saying, you know, all this competes against our businesses as well. And that's not right. I mean, the role of government is not to compete against local private businesses. And just so you all know, there's over 400 campsites by locally owned campsites or campgrounds already in development. And I did not know that until I started looking into it, and then they reached out to us and said, we've got 400. I can't remember which campground has 100 alone going in. Some of them are smaller and they have smaller amounts, but according to what I'd heard in Pierre with the gal that's doing the organization of the local campgrounds, those are the numbers I had gotten from her. This issue has brought people together from all walks of life. It doesn't matter what party affiliation you are. It doesn't matter what, you know, where you stand on other issues. This one is the issue that says, don't destroy what we have, that people come from all over the world to see. It's not worth the dollars that you're trying to get. And, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I can talk more about it. I've written an article in the newspaper, if you read Wednesday's Journal. I do have more to say on it, but I will go sit down now. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. We'll do a, can you wrap it up in 60 seconds? Because we want to move on. Okay.
Mike Derby, State Representative, District 34, Rapid City. I'd like to yield my 60 seconds to Secretary Roebling, please.
Okay. Before you do that, come on up, Secretary. There's a comment that I do want to read. And there's a small group campground west of the game lodge. The park sign always says this campground is reserved, yet it never seems to be in use. Could this campground be refurbished so it could be utilized? And is there something wrong with this area? And also, since I have the microphone, I'm going to take executive privilege here. As an avid camper, love being in the Black Hills camping, I'm not sure what the secret is, but I can never get a campsite in Custer State Park. A few years ago, I was sitting on the beach in Costa Rica on the 1st of February when it opened, and here I am on vacation wanting to get a campsite at Custer State Park. I get on, boom. Every site is full within like 10 minutes. I don't know how physically that happens, so if you can maybe give us the secret decoder ring to get a campsite. Because for me personally, adding a few sites isn't a bad thing because I spend plenty of money at other campsites, but I want to camp in Custer State Park, so help me out on the key to that.
Again, Kevin Roebling here, Secretary of the Game Fish and Parks, and thank you for this opportunity. You know, the mission at Game Fish and Parks is connect and serve people and families. Serve and connect people and families to the outdoors. So all 468 of us each and every day do that. Serve and connect people and families to the great outdoors. The goal of our department is to provide recreational opportunities and to create memories. That's why we'd like to offer this opportunity to expand some camping within Custer State Park. The reasons why: not all camping opportunities are created equal. They're really not. You know, for some individuals, that memory they want to make, the story they want to tell is camping in Custer State Park. That experience is what they're after, and that experience is what we want to offer them. As we stand here today, 87% of those campsites are booked for 2022. It is very, very hard, very, very difficult for families to have that opportunity to be, you know, let's say a month or two out in advance and say, I'm going to go camping to Custer State Park. That opportunity doesn't exist today. It's a 12-month reservation system. The supply and demand is much greater as a demand than there is supply. And again, that department is really wanting to offer more memories for more families, to create those outdoor memories and serve and connect. That's our motto. That is our mission each and every day. Serve and connect people and families to the outdoors. So that's why the department has taken upon ourselves to offer that opportunity, to throw that proposal out there to the public and see once what the public says. You know, Barnes Canyon location, we've heard folks loud and clear. We did. We looked at those things and we says, all right, let's move it, let's downscale it, let's put it over here by Stockade Lake where we already have an established camping area. There's a loop road already there. We'd come off that loop road, those types of things. And it is a good area. It's a very beautiful area. You know, we have a resource team that looks at the environmental impacts, looks at the resources, looks at all of those things. Those folks are dedicated and serve the public each and every day. And we are going to take very, very good care of this park. The resources are first. We understand that, and that is not going to change. Some of the comments made in regards to the numbers, you know, the 1992 Tatanka numbers are floating around where there was only 313 campsites there at that time. There actually was 26 omitted from that document. That was the French Creek Horse Camp. So there was actually 339 back in 1992 as well. And that 339 is the number we see today. Over by the game lodge is actually, we call that volunteer village. That's the campgrounds or campsites the question was referring to. That is where we put a lot of our seasonal and volunteer staff that stay and help us for the summer. So I will, I'll definitely take some more time later, but I see the red light, so I'll stand down for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to clarify the comment that I made is not on behalf of Elevate. That is on behalf of Chris Karn, camper, Black Hills. I'm not lobbying for Elevate. Anna just scolded me, so I just want to be transparent. So, okay, thank you, everybody. Definitely a very popular topic, a lot of passion. Custer State Park is such a valuable asset to the hills, and thank you for the comments, and you guys, I'm sure will be available afterwards for comments or questions, and so thank you for being here today. The next question, there's not a name, so I'll just ask it. There's a Board of Regents Priority Bill, Senate Bill 97, that will expand the capacity of research and development at the School of Mines. How do you plan to support this smart investment in Rapid City? Who's the sponsor of that bill, Lynn? Senator Smith.
I'll talk about it. You want to talk about it? You want it, Gerbs? Okay. This is a bill that we had where Elevate Rapid City used to be, and they built a new facility north of the post office. I think everybody's probably seen it. It's a really nice facility there. And so the building's still on campus. And the School of Mines would like to have that building for research and development. And so there's a bill in there, I believe Dr. Rankin, $5.2 million. Is that the right figure? Yeah, for $5.2 million. So it's on the School of Mines campus, and they just like to own the building because it's there, and they need it for space for research and development.
I would just add to that a little bit. It isn't about Elevate. It's about School of Mines, and it's about the School of Mines growing its innovation and its incubator, and to launch more startups, more technology, more collaboration through its students, through its alumni, through what's going on out at Ellsworth Air Force Base. The reason the bill makes sense is the School of Mines leases space for that building, and with the purchase price, it would be paid off if they bought it. It takes 7 years of the lease payments to pay off that initial cost of that building. It just makes sense that that building belonged to the Board of Regents, and that the School of Mines be able to modify it, invest in it, make it be what it needs to be, so that they can produce the best thing they can for the future of South Dakota. And so to me, it's a business decision, and it makes sense.
Pardon me, Helene Duhamel, Rapid City. Simply put, The ability to grow, for the School of Mines to grow, hinges on expansion of their research space. And they're just bursting at the seams. This one makes sense. It's more cost effective to use this building that exists. It's a Board of Regents priority, and we hope to get support for the program.
Okay, better look on first. That's you.
Well, as a South Dakota School of Mines graduate about 100 years ago, I'm obviously in support of this. We would like to utilize the facility more effectively, and in the vein of today's meetings, I yield my time to President Jim. No, I won't do that. I won't do that. Just let's get it passed. I think it passed 7-0 unanimously in the Senate Education Committee. Thank you.
Go get it. Thank you, Brother Johnson. So I brought this last year, and the biggest objection to appropriations was that it was not a priority on the Board of Regents, and this year it is. And so I think that it should clear the hurdle, and everybody should support this. It's very important for School of Mines, and it is a priority for all of us, West River and South Dakota. Thank you.
Mike Derby, State Representative, District 34. I'm just going to talk about the economics. It's an existing building that can be purchased. Everyone says, well, why don't they just build a new one? Well, it's hard to build on the School of Mines campus, and for the price, we all know what construction prices have done. You can purchase this for about half of what it would cost to build a new building. So I think it makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next topic is from Ron Weifenbach, I hope I said that right, regarding taxing districts to hold a public hearing, and the question is directed at Representative Chris Johnson. Can you give us a short summary of House Bill 1203?
Representative Chris Johnson, District 32. Thank you for the question. I'm glad it's on somebody's radar, and if it's not on your radar, should be on everybody's radar real soon. South Dakota is a state that values at least the concept of transparency, and several states before us have brought about a bill called Truth in Taxation, and that's what I call this bill, Truth in Taxation. What it allows for is a uniform system across the state where transparency is applied to all stakeholders, especially taxpayers. Hundreds of thousands of us may not be tax experts in South Dakota, but we are taxpayers, and as such, we are stakeholders in the process. What this does is, currently in South Dakota, we have a cap for all the taxing districts. And for each county, you have several districts within that county. It might be a school, might be a township, road district, bid. All those districts have the authority to raise taxes up to the cap. What this does is it creates a uniform system by which the county auditors every year will calculate for each district what their aggregate rate was for the previous year, send that out to them, and that if that district, any district, intends through their budgeting process to exceed the revenue neutral rate, the rate from the previous year, it just triggers a public hearing before they vote to increase the tax, the levy. And so they have to put out a mailing to all the residents within that district who own property, all the property owners, and let them know there's going to be a hearing on a certain date. At that hearing, they simply explain their reasoning why they need the extra money this year, and they allow for public input. Then they have the vote. They can hold the two hearings right next to each other. So this is just transparency in action. It allows the stakeholders, the taxpayers, to enter the process rather than just picking up the notice in your mail that you've got your tax increase and then having to talk about it afterwards. It's honesty on everybody's part. It's palms up. It's proactive. Nobody should be opposed to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Anyone else want to speak on that? Okay. The next question, Lynn, is in regards to Senate Bill 137, and it comes from Rachel Feifel. I hope I said that correctly. And the question is for Representative Laudner and Senator Johnson. If you had to vote in 5 minutes on SB 137 regarding protecting women and families through surrogacy, how would you vote and why? Would you like me to read that again? If you had to vote in 5 minutes on SB 137 regarding protecting women and families through surrogacy, how would you vote and why?
Boy, that's not a loaded question, is it? Well, let me just be open palms about this. I am the president of the Rapid City Right to Life organization. Commercial surrogacy, in most cases, the contracts call for a clause of abortion. So naturally, I would be opposed to that. Family surrogacy is a positive part of South Dakota. Family surrogacy is a pro-family positive option that we have in the state of South Dakota. That's how I see it, and that's how I would like it to remain. Thank you.
Wow, if I had to decide something in 5 minutes, I can't even decide what to order on a menu in 5 minutes. But I actually echo Senator Johnson. This is a tough issue. I've had the honor and privilege of carrying and giving birth to 2 children. I know how precious that is. I know that when you can't, because I have friends who can't, and my daughter-in-law had a hard time, can't get pregnant, there's the sense of loss, the sense of emptiness and the desire just to have a baby. I understand that. I also believe that God gives the increase. And I struggle a lot with the commercial side. I don't like the right or the gift of life to be commercialized. But in a family situation, I can see the merit in it. So I pretty much echo Senator Johnson. And I feel for the people who can't have a child. I really do. But there are stories all through the Bible where God opens that womb when they're 80 years old and they give birth to a baby. So herein lies my struggle. And it is a struggle because I do know what they're feeling and I do empathize with it. But I cannot get behind the commercial side, but I would support the family coming together to produce that. You know, I would rather not have probably either of them, but I do understand and I do empathize with it. And I'm wholeheartedly against the commercialization of I believe in right to life. And it's a very high value in my life, so thanks.
Thank you. Senator Dietrich?
Mike Diedrich, District 34. Surrogacy is a really important thing for people who want to have a family. And there has been in the past contracts, and I've looked at these contracts. We have visited this issue a few times now and have actually read the contracts that are utilized by surrogates. And they are like a business contract. It establishes the rights of the people and the health care and things like it's not breachable because you don't like the gender. It's not a throwaway child contract. In the past, there were some contracts many years ago that did have provisions in them that would allow or would cause problems, possibly abortion. But those are really not common. They're not a thing now because it's obviously wrong. Everybody would agree that's wrong, I believe, and especially a family who can't have a child but wants to have a child. They would not agree to have something like that in the contract. That's not appropriate. So what this bill does, and I haven't studied it in depth yet because it's not on the Senate side, but it does provide a regulatory structure that provides for the ability of families who can't have children to have a surrogate child so that they can have the family, they want a family. It provides protections into how that arrangement is. It ensures the proper health care, and it addresses gestational periods and what's appropriate. and it protects the family and the surrogate and the unborn. So I will look a lot closer at that bill when it gets to our side, if it gets to our side. But I just give you this information because I think there's more to the story than just saying it's an abortion type issue. I think there's more to it when families want to have healthy families but can't do it, and there's a way that we can do it in a Christian, faithful, health care protecting way.
Thank you, Senator Diedrich. Okay, thank you for the comments, everyone, on that. The next question comes from Aaron, I can't tell if it's Gieslad, so I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. And it is in regards to, the question is, do you have a position on House Bill 1073, which would return the diploma privilege to USD law graduates? That'd be HB 1073.
A group of us had breakfast with the Supreme Court on Thursday morning, and the first thing that I asked was, why is the legislature being asked to weigh in on the qualifications of who becomes an attorney? They don't ask us to make those decisions on who becomes our physician or almost any other profession. So I started to ask lawyers, and it's a pretty, whether or not to take a bar exam or to have a diploma privilege just because you went to law school. The bottom line is the Supreme Court hopes that more than anything, they're protecting the public with who becomes an attorney. And they said there were some years that they probably dropped the standards and filled the law school. They have raised the standards back up, and the pass rate for the bar exam, I'm told, is in the 90% again. So it's a difficult one, but my question is, why is the legislature being asked to weigh in on really what should be a judicial decision? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duhamel. Any other comments on that topic before we move on? No, you have to submit your questions written. No, you still have to. Sorry. All right. Our first online question from Jamie Guide. Do you believe in the ability to discuss and debate ideas, even those that some may find uncomfortable? This is a crucial part of our democracy. If so, where do you stand on HB 1012 regarding critical race theory?
You're gonna get sick of me. Okay, I'll bite. I believe in open, honest debate. I believe in challenging each other's opinions because through that we grow, we learn. There hasn't been one time when I've been in a serious debate that I haven't come out either considering the other side or thinking, okay, I can respect you for that. I don't agree with you, but we can agree to disagree. That's what America's all about. The one thing I've been most impressed with going to the House is you go into a committee meeting and you get debate and people are, they're and they hate, you know, they don't hate each other, but they are getting heated and they have open discussion. The committee votes, the ruling comes down, it goes totally against these people or for the other people, right? They shake hands, they go out to dinner, they're friends, but they had an open, honest debate. And to witness that is just really refreshing to know America, the freedom of speech still exists. As for critical race theory, I don't support critical race theory. I believe our history is our history. I want my children, my grandchildren to learn the history that my parents and grandparents handed down to me. And if you explore some of the writings and delve into it a little bit, you realize the history is being changed and tweaked quite a bit. So I am not a supporter of critical race theory, but I totally wholeheartedly believe in open and honest debate. Thank you.
Chris Johnson, District 32 again here. I would like to agree with the previous speaker and add to that I'm absolutely open and supportive of debate of issues, both sides. What I don't agree with is creating a starting point that assumes that if you're white, if you're male, if you're Christian, if you come from a two-parent household, that automatically puts you in a category that is an oppressor before the debate begins. So that's just my thought on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Any other comments before we move on to the next topic? Going once, going twice. Okay. The next is from Gary Drews, and it's in regards to Senate Bill 85. Senator Duhamel, please explain your bill, SB 85, our future water development for western South Dakota.
You know, we can fight over a lot of things that seem really important at the time, but is there anything that trumps water? We had a study done by professionals at the School of Mines and Technology looking at our situation in just 20 years. And we have to be concerned now about the future. We've seen just a couple of years drought. If this continues, our streams dry up, our lakes dry up. We got a big allocation of money for just this purpose from Washington. And this is the type of thing that we can all come together and agree, big project with generational impact, something that we need to do for the future. The problem is we have a little tiny timeline of 4 to 5 years. So we are hurriedly working on the engineering side, trying to figure out what we can realistically spend in this window. This state, we've been given $660 million, and we can give that to every corner of the state, and everyone benefits. But we'll also lose this wonderful opportunity to really put a big chunk of it behind something that really is desperately needed. Some 20, 25 years ago, the state started the Lewis and Clark project going east. And the idea was we would always go east and west. But we went east with a bigger population center in Sioux Falls, and it's downhill and it's farmland and it's easier. Sioux Falls would not be Sioux Falls today without the water. We need this desperately for western South Dakota. We also need, in our area, to think regional. Right now we have Rapid City, Box Elder, Rapid Valley, working independently like silos. We need to think of us as one big city and get together and decide, for the benefit of the taxpayer, the one place we have our water treatment and the one place we have our sewer treatment. This also is a regional concept. Every city that wants to get involved, including the reservations, we want everyone to join forces. Get on board right now. You say the Mini-Wachoni, fully allocated. That's 3-foot diameter. We're looking at 6-foot diameter, doing something where we have room to grow. The time is now. You look at the whole country fighting about water. We need to access the Missouri River water and our allocation for it. Thanks so much.
Mike Derby, State Representative, District 34. Some of you have probably heard this quote before, that whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting. And that's kind of where we're at, and you see it all over the country. But the first question I had is that, do we even have the water rights? Do we have the water rights from the Missouri River? And I did find the answer was yes. Since 1976, we've applied for and received water rights from the Missouri River, and thankfully, every 7 years, a group of people diligently renewed those water rights over a period of time. So, of course, the downstream states are going to probably fight and claw and scratch about this concept, but we do have the water rights, and I'm in support of this. Thank you.
A couple other things we need to think about for the water is I was so grateful for all the research and study that had been done at the School of Mines, because it talks about Right now, we're okay with the aquifers. Right now, we are. But remember when I first came up here and I talked about my grandkids? With the people coming here, droughts, more people coming here, dropping wells, we could really affect that aquifer. We don't want that to happen. We want there to be water here forever. I drive to Pierre, and when I go to Pierre, I typically go through Phillip. So I go through a lot of grasslands. Well, I wouldn't even call it grasslands this year. It is dirt with a few weeds and some cactus. And it doesn't matter that there's cattle out on that. That's what it is, because it's dry. And it should be grass. And it's grazed down. So my heart goes out to the ag community, because that is one of the things they're dealing with, is lack of water going into winter. But what's going to happen, like Representative Derby said, you know, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. What's going to happen when our water rates go up 3 times? We are on water rates already in Rapid, or restrictions, I should say. You can't water every day in Rapid City. What's going to happen when you can't water your lawn at all? Are we going to be like California and go out there with a spray gun and spray paint our grass green? Or I have a neighbor to the south to me, he has like AstroTurf, so it's green year round, which I'm sure confuses the deer, if nothing else, because they probably think they're going to get something to eat. But it's an important issue, and if we don't start now, when will we start? Thank you.
Representative Tim Goodwin, District 30. I got to compliment Senator Duhamel. She's really spearheaded this, and she's had some water meetings on it, and I've learned a lot just attending them. And basically, what they're talking about doing is having a 6-foot pipe. That's a big pipe from Missouri River to here. Some of the challenges is that we're going uphill. Does anybody know what elevation Rapid City is right now? You can look on your phone, and it'll tell you. Did you know that? 3,200. The river is about 1,200. So we got to bring it up. We might have to have substations, you know, to bring it up, stop, bring it up. And so when they went East River with the Lewis and Clark Trail, it was level or downhill. It wasn't going uphill. So that's one of the challenges. But in 20 years, even if everything stays the same without any droughts in that, we're going to be needing water. And we're also worried that downstream they could start trying to get rights to that water. So we might as well capture it now. And going back to what everybody talks about as far as money goes, you know, I wasn't going to say that this meeting, but I guess I will. You know, we're drunk on federal money right now that's borrowed from a foreign government, in most cases one of our enemies. And then we're giving it out to the states like it's free money. But it's with interest. We got to pay it back someday. So we don't have any choice. You know, when people stand up and say, well, what's the conservative vote on it? Well, if you can't send it back, you got to spend it wisely. You know, it's not like, well, this guy's not a conservative because he voted on this. We don't have any choice. It's like that last year, and it's like that this year. You know, last year we went and we got a couple of huge bills like broadband for the Black Hills and 5-star internet cell service. We got that passed last year. $50 million. I think we had 150 a match. That was huge. Also, the NEED scholarship. If you want to go to college and you can pass the entrance exam, you have a high enough ACT score, you can go to college. The only thing we did is you have to stay here 5 years so that you not have a brain drain where they're moving away from the state. They get a family and get your roots here. So this is another one of those deals. We should jump on it, and Governor Noem's in favor of it, and let's get the money allocated. If we could get a big portion of this year, next year, who knows what's going to happen? Who can forecast what's going to happen with the runaway federal government we have right now? If we get another chunk of money, we got to spend it on one-time spending stuff. We can't have it. We have ongoing expenses because we'll be bankrupt. But if we have a one-time chunk of money, like Senator Duhamel said, what would be more important than water? Thank you.
Chris Johnson, District 32. I'll be very brief. I think some of the good things when you get into the inside of this bill is that it requires a 50% match from the community in which the project is going to be. especially if you're a larger community. If the smaller communities, the state and the match is higher, or the match with these funds is higher than 50%. So smaller communities that can't put up that 50%, they're going to get some assistance on this. This is a good bill. It's a bill that is fair, and for most of this spending, I believe we have until 2026 to get the projects done. So, and it doesn't allow for any projects that aren't submitted through the state, through the application process. So it's just well thought out, it's needed, it's necessary, and it's good for the whole state, not just any one particular area. Thank you.
After Senator Diedrich, we'll move on. This will be the last comments on this question. Thank you.
This is just intended to help put this whole conversation in context for us and for the people who are listening. The bill that Senator Duhamel is the prime sponsor on is a bill to get a $10 million appropriation to get our water line started and to create the dialogue and the support that we need to do it. It's going to take a lot of appropriations and a lot of years to get it done, but if we don't ever start, it's never going to get done. The context that Representative Johnson was talking about is the water bill that's before the legislature right now, and there is $660 million that will be appropriated for water projects for all the communities throughout South Dakota. Those dollars are grant dollars because they're the ARPA dollars. We have to get rid of them, and we have to spend them, and they will help the local communities with good drinking water and with safe wastewater disposal. And so we have a lot of communities, a lot of them East River, some of them are West River, that have old lead pipes that have corroded down to very, very low volume, or systems that are failing. And we support getting those dollars out to them in the formula that Representative Johnson talked about. But it's all part of a bigger strategy too. We have the resources. Let's help everyone in South Dakota address their water issues, because as we move forward with West River water issue, we're going to need all of their support. And it just makes sense. Let's get them fixed up now, so that when it's our turn to get fixed up in a total transformational way, that they'll be on board, and hopefully their needs will be less, so the dollars can be allocated properly to our project. And so thank you all for that support.
Thank you for that clarification. My bad on this, but I do support SB 85 as well. But the bigger bill is really important as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great comments. Okay, so Lynn, House Bill 1216, and it comes from Carmen Timmerman. Teachers are professionals to whom we entrust our children's education. Regarding House Bill 1216, that removes collective bargaining for school district employees, what is the rationale behind denying this for our teachers?
Sorry. I don't know. Okay.
Representative Chris Johnson, District 32 again. All I can say is I just started getting emails on this. It's a new thing. I don't think it's had much opportunity to get vetted yet, and I'm hearing some emails that really oppose this, and we're going to take a close look at this. But none of you would want us to just develop an opinion without hearing all the sides, and I think that's the case we're in right now. Thank you.
Tim Goodwin, District 30. I only comment on outside stuff. I'm not an inside guy, but I guess I'll comment on this one. I mean, we're having a severe shortage of teachers. It's only going to get worse. If they're going to take away collective bargaining, it looks like it could. That would be a bad thing. I mean, Rapid City School, I think, has 100 teacher openings, something like that. And it's going to get worse as retirements and everything goes. So, I mean, I don't think we want to do anything that would hurt us in that regard.
Senator Jessica Castleberry, District 35. I thought maybe I should get up before you wondered if I was mute. So thank you for all being here today. Just briefly on collective bargaining, I think that there's a theory that it's dangerous to unionize anything that is funded by taxpayer dollars. And then just to be very brief, as we're taking a look at this and considering it, I think that it's important to examine whether or not it is wise to continue to provide teachers with raises that are not merit-based. So it's something that we will be continuing to look at, but I do caution anything that's done through a union effort that's funded by taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, Senator Castleberry. We knew you'd speak at some point in time. Okay, we have another online question, and it's Senate Bill 51, Lynn. With the fires we had last year, it seems like the need for more resources to support firefighters are needed. Does Senate Bill 51 support more funding for training or equipment?
Well, this was not a planted question, but boy, am I glad to have this brought up. The governor's budget includes $2 million. The governor's recommended budget includes $2 million for volunteer fire departments across the state of South Dakota. The bill includes $850,000 for a 4-story burn tower located here in Rapid City. It's to be used by the entire western side of the state for the volunteer fire departments and for the municipal fire departments located west of the Missouri River. There's $150,000 in that, out of that $2 million that goes to PR campaigns. We're trying to recruit volunteer emergency first responders to include firefighters, volunteer firefighters. And then there's $1 million allocated towards burn trailers that can be moved throughout the entire state, again, to local volunteer fire department facilities so that we can train our emergency medical responders. This, folks, is, once again, it's your governor at her finest. This is something that the state terribly needs, and we're talking $2 million as opposed to the $600 million for water, which we'll need, by the way, for fighting fires. And it's a very small amount in comparison. Now, you know, again, I'll be open palms about it. My name's Dave Johnson, by the way, District 33. You know, I'm the president of the volunteer fire district up at Johnson Siding. We had 3 major fires in the Black Hills, major fires, multiple fires, but 3 major fires in the Black Hills in 2021, all 3 of which were located in my District 33. We had the Bogus Gym Road fire, if you remember, the big one, North Haines. That was a scary one, just on the city limits. And then the Westbury Trails fire, number 2. Back in 1988, we had Westbury Trail fires number 1, a big deal, and then we had this one in March. This is the truest function of government, and that is public safety. I'm going to be looking at this panel for 100% support on Senate Bill 51, the governor's bill for volunteer fire departments. And then there are 3 other words I want to say regarding volunteer fire departments. 3 words. Sylvan Lake Lodge. That was a 3-story building. 6 departments responded to that fire. All 6 were volunteer fire departments. So a shout out to Custer, Volunteer Fire Department, Hill City, Volunteer Fire Department, Johnson Siding, Volunteer Fire Department, North Haines, Volunteer Fire Department, the Rockerville Volunteer Fire Department, and Newcastle, Wyoming, Volunteer Fire Department. And then on the last thing I wanted to say is my secretary got back to me. She said the last time there was a fire up at Beretta Road was last weekend.
Okay. All right. Another online question, and it's House Bill 1006. High school sports are a place to learn about how to work hard and work together. Why is this benefit prioritized for, is it just asgendered students? Or is it transgender students? It's not written out there. How is damage to trans students worth excluding them from high school sports?
Cisgender.
Cisgender. Thank you. Do you want me to read that again, since I didn't read the handwriting? High school sports are a place to learn about how to work hard and work together. Why is this benefit prioritized for cisgender students? And how is damage to trans students worth excluding them from high school sports?
Yeah, this bill it's already made it through the Senate. It's got through committee in the House, and it was on the floor yesterday or day before. I don't know what day it is. The last time we were there, and there was an amendment added to it, so it's going to come on again this week once we see what the amendment is. And basically, it's fairness in sports for women, where a male will be prohibited from having a sex change to make him a female and to compete in female sports. A couple things with the bill is we don't have anyone in that category right now in South Dakota, so why are we messing with it? But it does set a precedent for in the future. There's two ways to look at it. You know, should education be dealt at the lowest level down at the school board, which is where it is right now. But it's to the point now, it's what's happening in other states. It's not a matter if, but when it's going to hit here. And you've seen some of the swimmers that broke all kinds of records, and before that in Connecticut, the track athletes that did. So basically it's going to say that if you'd go have a transgender surgery to go from a man to a woman, you're not going to compete in women's sports. And I believe there's also a clause in there about birth certificates. When you get to the legislature, you talk about stuff you never even thought of. But I thought you had a birth certificate. I didn't know later on in life you could get another one. You could have put me in a dark room and fed me bread and water for 30 days, and I never would have thought of that one. But yeah, you can get a birth certificate later on in life. So this is going to say it's your sex at birth, certified by the doctor when you were born. So I don't know if I explained it very good because I'm not even signed on to it, but I agree with it.
Jessica Castleberry, District 35. Again, I'll be brief with my comments. I think that it's important to focus that this is about fairness in women's sports. It's also very, very clear in the bill that no one is barred or banned from playing sports. They still have the opportunity to play. It's just the requirement that those that are born with more muscle mass, stronger, longer bones, bigger hearts, bigger lungs. It doesn't matter what it says on your birth certificate, that biology does not change. So we are protecting the fairness for our young women and our girls. Everyone still has the opportunity to play.
Chris Johnson, District 32, again. I think the question itself identifies a difference between trans and cisgender, if I'm correct. And Title IX says that girls or boys, especially in this environment, we're talking about girls for the most part, shall not be subjected to competing with somebody outside of their classification as a girl. So I guess, you can argue about the semantics, but even the trans argument is that there's a difference between a trans and cis in some way. And so we're just trying to clarify the law to show that girls will compete with girls. And I saw a report recently where there was somebody, I think it was in Pennsylvania, a transgender who competed in the female competition, a swimming competition, I believe it was a 1,500 meter race, won the race by 38 seconds. And that particular person, when that person was competing with boys, was at the bottom of the rung when it came to the boys. And so we have to pay attention to these things. We've had a huge outcry from the girls and mothers and grandmothers and women across the state saying, do something about this. And I want to be fair to people, but we need to be fair to those who are feeling that they're subjected to unfair competition. So I think that's where I'm at on it. Thank you.
Okay, I just proved a point to myself. I'm not the most educated person up here because I had to look up what cisgender meant. And it is denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender corresponds with their birth sex. That's just an FYI. On the side note, I don't think anybody up here is trying to make this a transgender bill or a cisgender bill. That is not what this is headed towards. That's not what this is about. It's about girls, biological girls, and their ability to compete. Thank you.
Okay, after Representative Ladner, we will move on to the next subject. Thank you.
Hi, Representative Ladner, District 30. Just bringing it home. In Pierre, when somebody opposes you or opposes your idea, they tend to focus on scare tactics. They use words that were never intended to be used. Fairness in women's sports doesn't cry transgender discrimination. It's saying apples to apples and oranges to oranges. My granddaughter's 13. She's an avid soccer player. They live in New Jersey. She's being groomed for the Olympics. Do I want to see her playing soccer with a 6'2" male who can cripple her if, you know, they do the plays they do? No, I don't. I don't think that's fair. And this is a fairness bill. It's looking at not only the anatomy and the strength, but the level playing field. Sports have always had their rules. They always say foul or safe. And I think that this bill says that young ladies will be safe. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is in regards to recreational marijuana and Amendment A. Everyone in this room knows they were voting for or against recreational marijuana on the 2020 ballot. The people have spoken, so what steps are our Black Hills legislators taking to establish the will of the people?
Jessica Castleberry, District 35. We are addressing marijuana every single day. It is almost the only bills that we have been processing through the Senate. And I think that it's important to remember that within upholding the will of the people, a lot of that legislation had to be very, very carefully studied, even for errors as much as referring to an entity as a department when it was actually a division. We couldn't just pass the bills the way that they were written because they were written so incorrectly that they would not have been correct within our legislation. So people are frustrated, and that's understandable, but you have to understand the murk that we have been having to go through, the incredible work of the Marijuana Summer Study to try to align what was presented to the people with what is actually correct legal language.
Can you read the question again?
It states that everyone in this room knows that they were voting for or against recreational marijuana on the 2020 ballot. The people have spoken, so what steps are our Black Hills legislators taking to establish the will of the people?
Okay, as far as everybody voting on it, I've talked about this a lot, but I'll bring it up one more time. If you voted last election, you voted twice for recreational marijuana. You voted in Constitutional Amendment A when it was wrapped with hemp, medical marijuana, and recreational marijuana. So that's one time. And then it was IM26 was by itself. So how in the world can it be on the ballot twice? Nobody's ever answered that. And hemp was on the ballot last time, and we legalized it the year before. So how can something be on the ballot that was the year before? That makes no sense to me. But once that's done, we did honor IM26. The Supreme Court took Constitutional Amendment A and said it was unconstitutional because there was 3 subjects, and it's clear there's only supposed to be 1 subject. So they threw that out. But IM26 stood because of that. And so what Department of Health did, and all of us that were on summer studies for medical marijuana, we worked hard on this, and we had to come up with rules for it because there's a lot of things that have to be addressed in there. One rule that we passed in the House was home grow. That's why I wanted you to read the question again. I don't know if you want to talk about home grow, and you're not paying attention to me, you're just talking to Anna. But anyway, still aren't. As far as home grow, I mean, I voted against home grow in the House where you could have up to so many plants. I believe the number finally came down to 4. But when I talked to law enforcement said it was unenforceable and that there's no way they could enforce it. So I'm never going to vote against law enforcement on something they can't enforce, so I voted against it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Hello? Okay. We're about 15 minutes away, so we still have about 4 or 5 questions, and I want to try to get through all of them. This next question does not address a bill. There is not a bill, but the question is this. What actions does the government intend to take to address the disproportionate rate of arrest and incarceration of Native Americans in Pennington County and to lower the jail and prison population overall statewide? Is there a bill to address this?
Helene Duhamel, Rapid City. I'm not aware of a bill to address this. I know locally, the Pennington County Sheriff's Office, the Rapid City Police Department have partnered with the MacArthur Foundation Safety and Justice Challenge to work very hard to try to make sure the right people are behind bars, the violent people that we need protection from, and make sure the rest are not. And we have really doubled down on addiction treatment. Many of you are aware of the many services available in our care campus. And I always tell people, whether you're the staunchest conservative or the most liberal bleeding heart, that's a win. $10 for a mat on the floor and a sack lunch versus $85 a night in the jail. I think we're doing a very smart approach. And what we're doing, frankly, is in Pennington County, if we solve these problems here, it'll be an example for the entire nation. But it is certainly be followed in the rest of the state. Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls is following our lead with a facility much like the care campus called the LEAD facility, and they are also working with the MacArthur Foundation Safety and Justice Challenge. It just makes financial sense. We're working hard to solve these problems locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Becky Drury, District 32. We have a cutoff date when folks can drop bills unlimited, and one of our esteemed legislators dropped a bunch of bills the other day. He did drop House bill, and it was Senator Bordeaux, and it was like 20 bills, at least. He dropped House Bill 1187. This might be what the question is addressing. The section 2 on that talks about law enforcement training for about tribal policies, jurisdiction, customs, concerns, and it has a plethora of information in here about more focus on law enforcement and our Native Americans and the communities. And I think that might have been what the question was dealing with. I'm not sure, but there was a bill dropped concerning that. House Bill 1187.
So I mentioned Dave Johnson here. I mentioned in my opening talk about Department of Corrections came before the Appropriations Committee, and they gave us some data. And that data included the fact that the women's prison in Pierre is overcrowded, and that the governor's recommended budget for 2023 includes $28 million to build a women's work center in Rapid City. And the reason for Rapid City was chosen is because I didn't know this, but Pennington County is responsible for the majority of women's prison inmates in the state of South Dakota. So, again, thank you, Governor. We are going to be, if the governor's budget is approved, we will be building a $28 million facility in the city of Rapid City. And again, as with the governor, I'll be asking for support from every panelist up here in support of that facility. Now, overall prison population, from what I recall, is down, male, female, across the state of South Dakota is down about 4%.
Okay, thank you. We're going to cut that off on this one and move on to the next question. and it's in regards to House Bill 1052, and it's from James Johns. Are you aware of the impact 1052 will have on the safety of our community by eliminating the effective partnerships between local and federal legislation?
Jessica Castleberry, District 35. I'm happy to take this one because this is a bill that I am prime sponsoring in the Senate. That is actually a fairly debunked misconception. This bill is mirrored after legislation that has been passed in North Dakota and Montana without any issues. Now, that was discussed in committee, and so what it has to do with is providing proactive protection for our law enforcement officers from being forced to uphold any unconstitutional mandates on firearms, ammunition, etc. So it does not apply to any current agreements that are in place. There were things that were brought up during committee that were debunked, saying things like, well, what if there's a shooting at the federal building or at the airport and then our law enforcement can't step in and help? That's not what the bill is about at all. It has to do with unconstitutional seizure of firearms, anything that would come down as an executive order, anything that would make an attempt to supersede the Second Amendment. So it's a strong bill. It's been misrepresented, but I think that South Dakota legislators are discerning enough to see that many other states have passed similar legislation, have been able to uphold Second Amendment sanctuary state laws, and I would hope that the legislature is brave enough to do so in our state as well. Thank you.
Here's some respectful disagreement. A vote for this bill is really a vote in law enforcement, we believe, to keep violent criminals on the street. It eliminates the ability of law enforcement to work with the ATF. Local law enforcement then cannot enforce these gun laws. So in 2020, we had 116 violent firearms cases in Rapid City. In 2021, we had 108. The partnership with the ATF provides investigators and brings the federal judicial system into the mix. Our local state's attorney's office do not have the capacity to do that, so we work with the feds for these cases. 3 full-time detectives working with the ATF to get our violent criminals off the street. Think Project Safe Neighborhoods, federal dollars to investigate these violent gun cases. This is something that I would oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. Okay. Next question is regarding House Bill 1112, and it is the authorize the use of crossbows for senior citizens, and it comes from Jim Glines with the South Dakota Youth Hunt, is that right? And the question is what's the status of House Bill 1112?
Representative Tim Goodwin, District 30. The status is it hasn't came before committee yet, so it's still out there waiting to come. I catch a lot. We had it last year. The bill said last year anyone over 60 didn't have to get a profile from a doctor saying that they couldn't pull back his bow any longer, and that I think got beat by 1 vote. So it came back this year. The guy that sits right next to him, my seatmate, Kevin Jensen, bought it, and it says anybody over 65 could get a crossbow license for bow hunting. Wouldn't have to get a profile from their doctor. But there is provisions right now that if you have a sore shoulder or some limitation that you can't pull back a regular bow, that you can go to your doctor and get a profile. They go for 4 years at a time, and you can use your crossbow for regular bow hunting. Now, the opposition of that, and they have a really good point on it, is if everybody went to crossbows instead of bows, the increase of hunters could really increase. And right now we have a pretty sweet deal in South Dakota that if you put in for a bow tag, you can get a license every year. In fact, you can get one for East River and one for West River. So you can you don't have to go through the drawing process and wonder if you're going to get a tag or not. You could shoot 2 deer with a bow and arrow in South Dakota every year. There's no waiting list. There's no points or anything on it. And so if we had overpopulated the bow hunters, that Kevin Roebling might wake up some morning and decide to end that, where you have to have a drawing system or something, and that's the big fear. I don't think it's a huge issue, but it's got a lot of pushback on it. So my stance, I decided, is that as long as they can go get a profile from a doctor, if they have a sore shoulder or some limitation that they can't pull back a regular compound bowl, as long as that's in there, which it is, that I'm going to oppose this bill and just leave it like it is today.
I'm not Dave Johnson here. I'm not going to speak to the bill. Representative Goodwin just mentioned something about it hadn't been brought before committee. To Ms. Fifley, is it Fifley? Is that the proper pronunciation? Okay, I wanted to thank you, by the way, for the question that you brought up. I think it's interesting on surrogacy. None of the panel knew your position, and yet you got 3 different valid and reasonable responses. That's the purpose of these Cracker Barrels. And then I wanted to say, if you're confused, you've heard the word, a bill's been dropped. Well, when a bill's been dropped, that means a bill's been raised. And when you say a bill has been passed to the 41st day, that means it's been killed. So, figure it out.
Dropped, raised, there you go. Killed. All right. Last question, and it's HJR 5001, Lynn? And it's from Harvey Fitzgerald. As other states pass Convention of States legislation, like Nebraska and Wisconsin, will the legislature give ample time to this issue?
I hate to do this to you, but can you read it one more time?
Happy to. There you go. As other states pass Convention of States legislation, like Nebraska and Wisconsin, will the legislature give ample time to this issue?
Yeah, we had HJ 5001 come before us. I've been adamantly opposed to it. There was all kinds of things that I was afraid of, but I just kind of had an epiphany with the out-of-control federal spending we have and the out-of-control government we have, that I think we have to do something. So what the Convention of States says, that if 34 states sign on, that they will have a convention, they will all get together, and they can rewrite a couple of points in the Constitution. They're supposed to be set ahead of time. The term limits is one, out-of-control government's another, and having a balanced budget. The opponents to that say that's not necessary to have a convention. It's a risk to do it, to open up the Constitution. What we need is 2 amendments to the Constitution we have now, just like we had other amendments like the right to ruin, to vote, and whatnot. So I decided I was for both. I'm for having, if you want to add some amendments to stop runaway government, I'm for that. If you want to add amendment to balance the budget, I'm for that. But I'm convinced that the Convention of States isn't the risk that I thought it was, because 34 states first have to come on board for it. They were at 15 for like 4 years. Now we're on 17. It's passed the House. It's going over to the Senate. If they did come up, say, to eliminate the Second Amendment, they went in there and they have a runaway convention, and we're going to eliminate the Second Amendment. And that could be a real concern, because I'm sure there's probably a majority of states that probably pass. But if they did that, they would have to come back from 34 states to 38 states to approve that. And so I feel comfortable that you're not going to get 34 states to ratify it. The pro tem of the Senate has a really good point on it. He's afraid of it because, you know, I'm sure they would like to take the Connecticut compromise, and which is where you get 2 senators for every state, regardless of your size. You know, we get, is Dusty still here? We get 1 Dusty Johnson, but we get 2 senators. Some states have, you know, it goes by your population. If, you know, I'm sure California would like to say, well, we get 3 senators and the little states get 1. But if that happened, it would have to be ratified by 38 states, and there's way more small states than there are big states, so it would never happen. So I think the checks and balances are there. I feel comfortable with it. My good friend, Representative Dave Johnson, him and I were together on it. He's probably going to kill me because I went the other direction, but I hope we're still good friends. But I'm actually for both sides of the issue. We got to do something with this government. It is crazy, and so if we have a convention of states, or if we're going to add 2 amendments to the Constitution, let's do it. Let's just do something and not just continue to kick the can down the road.
Mike Derby, State Representative, District 34, Rapid City. The question was, will the legislature provide ample time? And yes, I'm very proud of our legislature. We've spent time, the committee hearings. I just found out the other day there are still states that have what's called a pocket veto. South Dakota used to have a pocket veto, and that meant the chairman of the committee would get a bill and they'd literally put it in their pocket and it would never see the light of day. South Dakota got rid of that policy. Every bill that comes today gets a hearing, it goes through the process. And that's a beautiful thing about South Dakota. There's states that still have pocket vetoes. I got more information from both sides of this issue than any other issue to date. You will get an ample hearing, fair hearing, and I want to thank people like Mike Duncan, folks that have educated me on the process, and I've learned a lot about it, and it did pass out of the House. Thank you.
This has gone out, well, there's a couple of bills, resolutions that do this. This one calls for convention of states to address 3 different matters: the term limits, the budget, and federal overreach. The other one was limited to term limits. And we all have had a lot of information on this, and I've studied the issues in this, and I've listened to both sides, and I still don't think I totally understand it, because we're talking about having a convention of people, of representatives from the states. There's no guarantee it's legislators or how those people will be picked. And they have the ability to hold a convention and make changes to the Constitution, propose them, and bring them back. The information, and so we have Supreme Court justices on both sides of this have said there are no controls once a constitutional convention is launched, that they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States Supreme Court for oversight, that they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the Congress for oversight. It's up to the delegates to the convention to do what their states authorized them to do, and I would hope that's what they would be limited to. The original Convention of States resulted in a rewrite of the then Articles of Confederation, and there were requirements of ratification numbers that were changed by the convention because they couldn't achieve those numbers. And there was only 12 or 13. There was a very limited number involved in that. And I think before I'm comfortable, but I'm still learning, and I'm open for discussion. But common sense happens a lot in the legislature, and we have had some common sense bills that we talked about today that should just go through. But when it comes to potentially putting our Constitution at risk, I think that we have to be absolutely certain of how that's going to occur, and that we have to be absolutely certain that there are ground rules that will be enforced. And at this point, I'm not willing to put our United States Constitution at risk because of those unknowns. And there is jurisprudence and academic information and law review articles that go both ways. But what that tells me is it's not settled, and if it's not settled, I'm not so sure I want to put our Constitution into that situation. So, but I'm a lifelong learner, so if there's more information, and we will have some more discussions, we've already talked about that. But right now, I'm at the point where I'm not willing to put our U.S. Constitution at risk, especially when you consider the political times throughout the country. I mean, I trust our South Dakota, whomever we may pick by whatever process, I trust them to exhibit South Dakota values and principles and look to the future of South Dakota. I'm not so sure I can count on that occurring for other states that would be participating in the process. And that, again, that's another risk out there, because we may be the minority. South Dakota, surprise, we might be the minority in our opinions on how that should turn out. So until there's a reduction or elimination of risk, I'm open to discussion, but I'm not willing to put it out there just yet.
Okay, thank you, Senator Diedrich. So that's all the time we have for this morning. I want to thank everyone in attendance and thank you for being part of this important legislative process that we have. Thank you to all the volunteers for all your work, and especially thank you to all of our legislators for being here and for what you do every day. It's a difficult job, and we appreciate what you do. So thank you, and we will see you at the next Cracker Barrel, which will be here on the 12th. And again, thank you for Western Dakota Tech for opening their doors. Have a good weekend.